Fair trade create a lot of noise, a lot of aspirations, got some awareness, but the truth of the matter is they've not yet achieved what they set out to achieve, is that you have a lot of false reporting. There are companies that say 90% free trade coffee beans. You may or may not know, but what they do is based on local government. They give them advance notice that they're coming for inspection, and the inspection happens every 3 to 5 years. And the local actors are very incented to make sure that inspection process yields a positive result. What's wrong with this model? So we need to think about how to do it differently. So we want to go from the past, free trade, certified, to something real more meaningful, slave-free trade. The new logo we hope to introduce to impact consumer behavior, which creates a premium or at least a preference for products that are made without the use of slaves. And therefore we can reciprocate and give that to the good actors, and therefore the bad actors will no longer be incented to use slave labor. They'll then reform themselves, which we think is a more achievable outcome than trying to punish or put them in jail. And you may not know, I was not aware of this a year ago, that there's over 40 million people reported to be slaves today, and that's self-reported through a United Nations survey. Those people who are close to it say it's actually a much bigger number than that. So a worthy cause. So, kind of in summary, we imagine a world that could be better, and it's going to happen through, as Bobby says, hyper collaboration. As Scott says, not a command and control function. Good ideas, passion, good technology, and influence will actually achieve that outcome. We do think that we can be a bridge, a catalyst to bring tribes and governments together. In our short life at Sweetbridge, Scott's an advisor to 5 governments, and I'm an advisor to 2 on such topics as fairness in the economy, or how to remove slave-free trade, or how to conduct business appropriately in a crowd sale market. So our goals are broad, and we know that we can't solve it with just the issuance of a clever technology. We have to get adoption, and ultimately our protocols are no more valuable than the number of people who adopt and benefit from those protocols. And I also think this isn't just about Sweetbridge or blockchain. It's really about a change in history, a change in paradigm, and a willingness to accelerate change across the world. It's actually amazing sometimes that after every event like this, we typically have a couple doors open. Next thing you know, we have a new project that can scale and achieve good outcomes. Everyone here may know all about blockchain projects, so I'm not going to dwell on this detail. But I have a couple that I've been inspired that I didn't know about a year ago, which was how blockchain, for instance, can be used as a payment method to feed refugees. And again, sometimes you don't know the issues until you get close to it, and you find out that in a case like Syrian refugees, the first time they distribute $10,000 of food vouchers, most of that gets sidetracked by bad actors, and then they use blackmail or they make profit from it. So even if you have good intentions, if it doesn't get to the recipient, you have an issue. It decreases your ability and desire to fund a project if you don't think it's going to achieve the outcome intended. Another one is similar in nature, but using a credit card function on the blockchain. And then another one is going to a place in the world where they don't have energy and introducing solar panels, and then creating a local marketplace where people are incented to use those solar panels and trade. This is in a community where they don't have cell phones, they're not computer literate, and yet this had a big impact. So it shows the power of technology, and not just to say this is a good ice cream cone, please eat it, but how do you incent people to participate? And it has to have an economic incentives. So as bold and as ambitious as we are, I don't think we're naive that good technology just adopts itself or a good intention manifests itself in reality without a lot of things taking place at a governmental level, an implementation level, and of course an economic incentive level. And one of the projects that we're sponsoring, we don't need to be inventors of identity, but identity is necessary for something like giving 500 million farmers globally more access to microfinancing than exists today. We need to know who they are. And we need to have a high fidelity picture on their track record. What is their crop yields? What's their history? Where do they live? And when we do that, we're able to provide lower cost loans than are available to today. So in conjunction with the Dutch government, Dutch chain, and 7 other organizations, we're sponsoring the world's largest hackathon in the Netherlands. I think last year they had something like 675 people participate. It'll probably be larger this year, and we're hosting one section on identity. And we're providing a use case, which fortunately for us isn't just theoretical. We like to marry economics and the major players and technology to be able to innovate and then roll it out and deploy it. So right now we're in late stage discussions with large scale pharmaceutical companies on the track and trace of AIDS vaccine, but more importantly the distribution, which is more complex and more problematic, to the patient. Companies are like the AIDS manufacturers or benefacting organizations of the U.S. Department of Aid give billions of dollars in drugs to distribute to places like sub-Saharan Africa. And there are some reports that only 40% of those drugs actually get to the patient. And the person who gets the drug may or may not follow the regime, and that person may or may not actually deploy the drug. So if you think about what the value is in the final mile of delivery to be able to connect the drug to the patient. So we're now in the blueprint phase and funding phase to be able to say, run a project in Nigeria with 10,000 clinics. How can we have biometrics, low-cost biometrics, cell phone and others, meets the blockchain, meets the patient, meets the drug. And if we're able to close that loop, those people who benefit by giving, who are benefactors who give $1 billion of free drugs, they feel better if there's outcomes. The drug manufacturers feel better if they can get some sort of feedback. And the clinicians love it because they're going to impact patient outcomes. So in some ways, this is a simple, low-tech technology, but it can have a wide impact. The Gates Foundation is taking great interest. We've not yet consummated the deal, but they're saying that we will put the boots on the ground if you provide the technology and the insight. You know, a small company that we are, 87 employees, we can't be flying people to Nigeria. And Accenture doesn't want to do it, right? You have to find a way to make this happen. So we take we're based on results and we want outcomes. We're not just going to issue protocols and hope people put them to use. We've got to be able to tie all the actors together to get the desired outcome. So in closing, many of us who are attracted to blockchain believe it's an opportunity to do it better than we did in Internet 2.0. I was part of the excitement in the 90s. I remember the irony and the hypocrisy of the Internet go-go generation, the .com, which became the .bomb. But many of us thought peer-to-peer music sharing, better freedom of communication. And now we're looking back that it achieved the outcome. Right now, fake news proliferates. And there are 4 or 5 big actors that represent 50% of the stock market gains in the US. And these are companies worthy of admiring, but could we do it differently? So I love this article just here in January by an astute journalist who said, this is our chance to do it over again, to produce protocols that are open source that really allow distributed, autonomous organizations to give prosperity to everybody.